The Center, with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. Interesting. Let me get a quick roll call while I try to figure out why what I want to load up tonight is not loading up. Straight Black Pride to John Public. Straight Black Pride to Egalitarian 207. Greetings to Unique One Express. BB Fody and Straight Black Pride to Sister Vanessa. And a BB Fody to Brother You Got Ripped Off. All right. Interesting. Let's see. So first of all, before we get started, did y'all like the intro? And I asked for a reason because, well, no, first of all, can y'all hear me? Let's start with the basics here. All right, cool. So if y'all can hear me, first of all, give me a thumbs up or a one as we get started. Wait for a few more people to get in here. Thought we would have a larger audience tonight. I have decided after, okay, cool. I have decided that I am going to, but I was looking at like the analytics and how often I post and things like that. And I've decided that I am going to try to be more consistent posting here on YouTube and just see if more consistency will build the audience. So I'll definitely be doing another live stream next week. And 2 weeks from now on Sunday, Brother Genie is planning to visit us again to give an update on what he's been up to and what's been going on with him, what's going on with Straight Black Pride, what's going on with Ask Him. Also, he has a historic event coming up with him and David Duke, and also the Ask Him lecture is now available for, I believe, for digital download. I'm not sure if I didn't think he was making physical copies, but I could be wrong about that. But that is available for purchase from waronhorizon.com. That's waronthehorizon.com. So he'll be here in a couple of weeks. You get a chance, you want to get that Ask Him lecture. It is kind of tangentially related to what we're going to talk about tonight. What we're going to talk about tonight is, for the last couple of live streams, we've been talking about what the Rainbows have been doing. Yes, the David Duke discussion will be it will be live streamed. I'm not sure of the price. I will have the, if I don't have the flyer, but actually what I might do, because I can get the flyer. I thought I had it on my phone, but I didn't see it. I can get the flyer and I can just post it up on the page, or I could just, the next live stream I can put it up. But yeah, he'll definitely talk about that in a couple of weeks. So mark that on your calendars tentatively for August 6th at 8 p.m. We have Brother Genie back in the place, and he'll be talking about those things. So what I was about to say is that for the last couple of weeks I've been showing what the Rainbows have been doing, what they their plans and plots and schemes and the history of their movement and all this. And I decided tonight that I need to show the other side of the coin. BB4 Straight Black Pride, Brother Elijah. Um, and that is peace and blessings, Brother Crow. The fact that people are resisting, people are fighting back in various places, in various ways. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And that's why I called it the New Culture Wars. And what's interesting is I called it that, and I gave it the title before I actually saw a clip that we're going to show later, not too long from now, that calls it the New Culture Wars, like literally. So it's a news clip. And so what we're seeing now is a building resistance and an enough is enough attitude coming from various sides of the political spectrum. I have maybe trying to see maybe about 3 or 4 videos. One of them's really short, um, and 4 or 5 articles. So we're gonna get into that. Maybe take us about hour and a half or so because I gotta. So I'm not gonna be that long because I gotta get some sleep. There's a fight coming on at like 6 o'clock in the morning that I want to see. We got a brother from Philly who's flown all the way to Japan to defend his titles against a Japanese fighter who's receiving a lot of renown and um, things like that. There are questions about the Japanese fighters' tactics, and so it's going to be a very interesting fight. Those who know me know I'm a huge boxing fan. There's an excellent fight coming up this weekend. In fact, on Saturday, between two brothers, the bet probably probably the two best fighters in the world. So big week of boxing. I'm going to enjoy it. One of the few things in life I enjoy nowadays. You know, uh, you say no, no. This is for titles. No, I don't watch any exhibitions. If I want to watch exhibitions, I go down a block and watch two drunks go at it. Now these are for titles. So, um, but that doesn't stop the Japanese guy from apparently using as many tactics as he needs to be effective at what he does. But this is not a boxing channel. I don't think I'm gonna start a boxing channel, although I probably will start some other channel dealing with some other things. So with that being said, let's get into our first article. We're going to start here in Washington, well, the Washington, D.C. area um, with this article. And it's probably been a month ago now. And says Montgomery County parents protest literacy lessons on gender and LGBTQ plus issues. And those who know me know I get so tired of reading all these letters, but let's take a look at it. Says hundreds of parents gathered outside the Montgomery County School Board meeting Tuesday to protest a policy that doesn't allow students to opt out of lessons on gender and LGBTQ plus issues, which many families argue goes against their religious freedom, and I would say cultural freedom. Montgomery County Public Schools announced in March all students will be required to participate in the lessons with no option to opt out. I want to be an advocate for my kids, said Belinda Agayam, a mother of 3 MCPS students. What they are imposing on them, stop right there. Brother Jeannie has called this the imposition, and this person agrees. What they are imposing on them will not help them. It should be the parents' right, said Mark Hiley, father of 3 students as well. Parents should discuss with their kids to decide what they learn. I concur with that assessment. Um, Says here, a Maryland law allows parents to opt their kids out of sex education. Many parents say that they should be able to opt their children out of lessons that involve supplemental text on LGBTQ issues. They say MCPS is violating their First Amendment freedoms. All right, hold up. I'm confused already. So the parents, excuse me, can have their children opt out of sex education, but they can't opt out of rainbow education. Here we go. All right. It says we are religious. We have rights as Americans, said Adon Getty, mother of a kindergartner. Our kids have a right to raise as a kid. They're not big enough to accept everything. It's funny. I think these people are actually in one of the clips I got now that I'm reading it. So it says, in a statement, a representative for the school district said, in part, students and families may not choose to opt out of engaging with any instructional materials other than family life and human sexuality unit of instruction, which is specifically permitted by Maryland law. As such, teachers will not send home letters to inform families when quote unquote inclusive books are read in the future. Stop right there. See, this is the flim flam right there, right? How you know when somebody is doing something wrong and they want to hide something? We know why, because what do? They conceal what they're doing. So what did it say? It says they will not send a letter home to the students. To the parents, to let them know that this information is what they'll be studying. And the way they kind of say it, it almost sounds like they're just going to randomly throw it in without any warning. So the students really just have to accept it as is. By the way, I forgot. I do not have, brother, you got ripped off, then remind me. I do not have my banner up. All right. Let's get that there. I do not have my music in the background. Yeah, y'all just let me just run around here looking crazy, just with nothing, right? That's how it is. Y'all supposed to be my folks. All right. So y'all tell me, is that too loud? If it's too loud, I can adjust it lower. Oh, I forgot about that, brother. I forgot. Okay. My apologies. I thought maybe you was relaxing somewhere. So y'all let me know about the volume of the music. I wanted to do that to set the mood tonight. All right, my bad. Back to our discussion. Now it says, counter protesters believe lessons on gender and sexuality should be required. They say if families are allowed to opt out, it could set a precedent. I don't understand what precedent would set. I guess I need to read further. It says any parent can ultimately pull their kid out of anything, said David Fishback, Maryland Advocacy Chair for Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, PFLAG. Okay. If kids get pulled out of classes when they get discussed, then that stigmatizes those kids. I disagree with that, because if you have a class with 30 children and 15 children get pulled out of the class, it doesn't stigmatize anything, because just half the class just walks out. In fact, it'll make the other children wonder why they're still sitting there listening to this nonsense, which I believe is actually what they want to do. Counter protesters, also say the lessons are not sexual in nature, but instead talk about the importance of being inclusive. The books geared to younger kids are showing a diverse range of families, said Christina Salenza, mother of an MCPS student. We have a 2-mom household, so my wife and I are really proud and out. And of course, my kid in kindergarten, pre-K, is going to talk about his family and his 2 moms. That child is already in trouble. A document containing the text approved for instructional use can be found here. I should have just read this and brought the text up. So what we're going to do is, I have no idea how that's going to open in this window, but after I finish reading this, we're going to open the text up. It says the school board dismissed the opt-out policy at its meeting Tuesday night, but that meeting was closed to the public, with MCPS citing the large amount of interest and safety measures. Still, hundreds gathered and some tried to push their way inside. The full MCPS statement in response reads, MCPS expects all classrooms to be inclusive and safe spaces. Hey, just understand that when you hear safe space, that's one of those keywords that Rainbows invented and put into the atmosphere. For students, including those who identify as LGBT or have family members in the LGBT community, a broad representation of personal characteristics within curriculum or instructional materials promotes this desired outcome. Wait a minute. Oh, the outcome of making things inclusive for rainbows. Okay, my bad. Therefore, as with all curriculum resources, there is an expectation that teachers utilize these inclusive lessons and texts with all students. Let's stop right there. We're going to translate that real quick. This is peace and blessings to Brother Malik, and before there, the Brother Elijah. So this is how the imposition works, right? If you read it, and let me read it again, because it was something in there that the way they said it says, a broad representation of characteristics within curriculum and instruction materials promotes this desired outcome. Therefore, as with all curriculum resources, there's an expectation that teachers utilize these inclusive lessons and texts with quote unquote all students. That means your children are going to accept this, whether you like it, they like it, they mama, they daddy, they grandmama. You just gonna accept it. You're gonna accept the imposition, whether you like it or not. Right? Now, Brother Genie was actually at this protest, and for those who don't know the area, if you, depending on where you live in PG County, Montgomery County, it's not really that close. And I believe this was in Rockville, which is even further up than this. I think that's like mid Montgomery County as opposed to southern Montgomery County. But what I'm gonna do is, this is I believe it's a 1-minute clip with Brother Genie, and he was just showing the number of people out there and the variety of people out there. So we're gonna watch that clip real quick, and then we'll come back and watch the actual news clip. And so here we go with Brother Genie's clip.
In Maryland, fighting this sick indoctrination of the people and the children. Because we got lots of people out here. Everybody's out here.
Right.
That's right. No more sexualization of the children. I want you to look around. The people are out here in Maryland saying, leave the children alone. They out here strong, all over, saying it's wrong to sexualize children. We're not going to tolerate it. Protect the children. They out here. Nobody's afraid. I'm very proud. I want y'all to see it's black people the Ethiopian here. Yesterday we were in Arundel County. There was a lot of Muslims there. You go to different parts of Maryland and you see the people are standing up.
All right. So that was Brother Jenny reporting live on the scene at the Montgomery County protest. And as we saw, and we'll see with the second clip, the news clip, and it's funny because I told Brother Jeannie that night I was watching the news. I'm like, hey man, you on the news. And I don't think he's in this clip. I couldn't find the clip because I couldn't remember what channel it was on that he was on. But yeah, he was actually out there. I mean, he was filmed at the event. But, you know, this goes to show that finally people are saying enough's enough. And of course, it would have to be, I'm not shocked that the motivator is the children. Once you start telling people what they can do with their children and what their children are going to do and what their children are going to accept, that's when people start to get motivated and like, hey, wait a minute. You're not going to tell me what my children are going to accept. You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do with my children. You know, if you want a way to get dormant people who haven't been paying attention, people who aren't really the type of people to protest and people who aren't the type to be active, once you center the argument around children, then that's when you start seeing people start to become more active, start to pay attention, and they're more willing to organize, they're more willing to risk backlash, and they're more willing to stand on their principles. And so that's what we began to see with the Montgomery County protest. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the actual news clip of this, and I believe that this clip will see also the Rainbow's reaction to the protests and to the policy of the schools. So pause the music real quick, and here we go.
And just in the last half hour, some new drama unfolded as an important school board meeting is about to get underway.
News 4's Amy Cho joins us now live to explain why parents there, some of them at least, say that they feel that MCPS is breaking the law. Amy, what are you hearing?
Hey, Leon. Well, the protest actually just wrapped up a few minutes ago, but you can still see a line of Montgomery County school security officers in those green vests over there. They are blocking the entrance to the school board meeting, making sure nobody gets inside. Just a short time ago, a number of parent protesters tried to push their way into that meeting, which is closed to the public. Those parents are upset with MCPS, where students are not allowed to opt out of lessons on LGBTQ issues and gender issues. They say they feel it violates their religious freedoms, and they want a say in what their kids learn. Montgomery County parents trying to force their way into a closed school board meeting until eventually giving up and staying outside. These parents are protesting for the right to opt their kids out of certain school lessons on gender and sexuality. MCPS announced in March all students would be required to participate with no option to opt out.
I want to be an advocate for my kids. What they are imposing on them will not help them.
It should be the parents' right. Parents should discuss with their kids to decide what they learn.
The state of Maryland has a law that allows parents to opt their kids out of sex education. Many of these parents say they feel MCPS is violating that law, along with families' First Amendment freedoms.
We are religious. We have right as Americans. Our kids have right to raise as the kids. They are not big enough to accept everything.
Outside MCPS headquarters, you could also see a number of counter-protesters who believe lessons on gender and sexuality should be required.
They say if families are allowed to opt out, it could set a precedent.
Any parent could ultimately pull their kid out of anything. If kids get pulled out of the classes when that is discussed, then that stigmatizes those kids.
Counter-protesters also say the lessons are not sexual in nature and instead talk about the importance of being inclusive.
The books geared to younger kids are just showing a diverse range of families. You know, we have a two-mom household, so my wife and I are really proud and out. And of course, my kid in kindergarten or pre-K is going to proudly talk about his family and his two moms.
The Montgomery County School Board is discussing the opt-out policy at its meeting tonight, but that meeting is closed to the public, with MCPS citing the large amount of interest and safety measures.
And 3 families had also recently sued Montgomery County Public Schools over Pride storybooks being made available to young students. The school system previously declined to comment due to the ongoing litigation. Reporting live in Rockville, Amy Cho, News 4.
So, and I wanted to say real quick that Brother Jeannie told me that the numbers for the people who were protesting against this this policy, I keep wanting to say it's legislation, but it's not legislation, it's policy, was literally like over 200, maybe even 300 or more people who were against it. And he said it was like literally like a dozen people who were quote unquote counter protesting. That was that small rainbow group there. So it just, when we talked about it and we saw the clip, it just shows how the media can frame things and make it look like, you know, it's a passionate group, a large passionate group on both sides. When in reality, what it is it's a large passionate group who were against this policy, and you know, is a dozen rainbows. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about Montgomery County is a economically, there's a lot of upscale areas in Montgomery County. I mean, and some very wealthy areas in Montgomery County. And then you have some other middle class areas. You have a lot of immigrants from various places, Ethiopia, other Africans, a lot of Hispanics, and a lot of whites. So that's the basic demographics of the county. And so, you know, I was surprised when I saw it to see how many African brothers and sisters from around the continent come out, because normally they do not get involved in these types of political activities or discussions. And Brother Malik says, notice how it's all whites on the pro-homophile side of the pro. Indeed. You did not see, I don't remember, brother, he didn't mention any non-Europeans who were pro-homophile. But again, like I said, it was a small group. It had been, again, a dozen of them. So that just goes to show, like, if those numbers are representative, and I'm not saying that they are, but I'm saying those were the people who cared enough to come out. You're talking about literally like 20-1. And all they were asking for, again, remember, all they're asking for is the ability to opt out of this educational policy and not have their children subjected to whatever may be within the guidelines of these books and everything. And that's another thing. And I didn't get, I gotta apologize to y'all for this. I couldn't find the videos I was looking for with people actually reading from some of the books and things that was going on. So what I will try to do is, when Brother Jeannie comes on, because he has a lot of those clips, we'll try to get a lot of those clips loaded up so we can see in other places outside of where we live, people reading what's in the books. Excuse me. And he has the physical books. So we may test something. I may have him go through the book and hold up some things that are in the book and see if it passed the YouTube censorship, because that will show us something. Straight Black Pride to Africa Ra. Think about this, right? I just thought about this. When Brother Genie comes on, he brings the book, right? Like Gender Queer is. You never seen the inside of that book. You'll be shocked. If that book can't pass YouTube censors, right? And I'm not saying they can or can't. I have no idea. But we're gonna test that theory. You know, we'll show one of the pages from the book. You know, if that book, if that live stream gets pulled down because of that, then that will tell us that the book is obscene, and then will validate the fact that people don't want it shown and taught to their children. Right? Let's think about this for a minute. Think about this. You see what I'm saying? Because what happened in some of these clips that I saw is that people were going to the school board meetings and reading from the books, and the people were saying, "Hey, wait a minute, you can't say that here." And he's like, "Oh, wait, what you mean I can't say it? I'm reading from the book. You're going to teach the book to my children, but I can't read what's in the book and at the school board meeting." And see, when I saw that, I said, "See, he has them." Now, what can you say? You can't say it's vulgar here with a bunch of adults and a couple of children, but it's not vulgar to teach to hundreds or thousands of children in whatever school district that is. You see what I'm saying? But those are the type of games and type of shenanigans that are going on, because either it's vulgar or it's not. Either it's appropriate or it's not. Either it's children should be hearing it and seeing it and reading it, or they shouldn't. It is a either or thing. It's not a both type thing. Brother Crow says Biden is putting sanctions on African countries because they're against the rainbow agenda. So of course they are out there protesting. Well, here's the thing, and I hadn't thought about that, but most of the people, according to Brother Genie, because he was there, they weren't representative of those countries that are actually, because it wasn't Ugandans and like that. It was like Ethiopians, Nigerians, a couple other West African countries, Ghanaians. So, but you may be correct. They may see that, and then they're like, "Hey, we need to do something." Which, if that's the case, that's a positive, because now they see that you're going to get it here and you're going to get it there. So if that's what's waking people up and making them get active, hey, that's a benefit for everyone involved, right? Who wants to have their religious freedom and their First Amendment and the ability to just reproduce and stay alive. So that's that article. Let's see. Next, we're going to go to, because we're going to start local and then we're going to go international. So next, we are in, Sacramento. And here it says protesters, gather outside Curtis Park store where Drag Queen Storytime children's event was held. And this goes all the way back to April. And it says here, Sacramento, there was pushback and protest outside a small Sacramento business on Sunday that was hosting a Drag Queen Storytime event for children. The business owners requested police protection from demonstrators outside their doors. A Sacramento police officer was positioned outside Poppy Plus Pot, a floral and pottery business, in preparation for protests in response to their Drag Queen Storytime event for children. Doreen Rockenberg, is co-owner of the store and says her family and her family business has been threatened by quote unquote hate groups. It was very clear that all the love drowned out the hate, Rockenberg said. We'd love to see what Rockenberg looks like. But anyway, the event inside the store Sunday morning was captured on the Poppy Plus Pot Instagram page. Rockenberg says despite the protests that developed outside, the show went on inside. We're hoping to make it clear that Drag Queen Storytime is for kids. I think people already know that part. It is an event for families. That's the part that's in question. It is an event that parents choose to bring their families to, and that is part of the insanity. For a parent who says they equate it with sexuality in one form or another, how would you respond to that? CBS Sacramento Steve Large asked Rockenberg. Absolutely not. I think that people they see that drag can be promiscuous, but that is a drag show that is meant for adults. This is a show, no, that is a show at nighttime, Rockenberg said. All right, hold up. All right, let's read this again. Right? He says parents equate men wearing dresses with sexuality, which obviously makes perfect sense because literally what they do is they take and make themselves as flamboyant as possible. They exaggerate the features of a woman, and it's like clowns plus drag dress up taken to the nth power. And being completely honest, a lot of these people be looking scary. So I can't see how a child wouldn't be traumatized looking at that, because I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I see some of this stuff and I'm traumatized looking at these people. Now, says this small business that was seeking a safe place for all is now facing threats from quote unquote extremist groups to their own safety. It says she said they also shared my home address, pictures of my home address. Sacramento police said two groups blocked traffic in the area as they confronted each other. Police say they made one arrest as a result of an assault on a police officer. Drag Queen Storytime is a monthly event that Curtis Park store holds. All right, brothers and sisters. So, I mean, they're in California. We know about California. We know how quote unquote liberal it is. BB48 to a BB48, man. And Brother Crow said small hat business. I mean, if I had to bet $10 on it, I would expect to get 20 back on that bet. But what it shows again is that there were people, even in California now, and we know how California is. Even in California, Sacramento, the capital of California, there were people that were willing to say enough is enough. And then, of course, these people play the victim role while they're sexualizing children, and they call the police and say, oh my God, help us. These bad people are going to hurt us. And let's be completely honest, right? Let's be honest here. If Europeans want to hurt you, the police are not going to be able to do nothing but pick up your body. Right? So those people were as violent and whatever as you saying. Yeah, okay. that's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? We're well versed in how Europeans work. So I'm just gonna say that threat was a little overblown. But hey, who knows? Maybe something happened and I don't know about it. So now we're gonna go internationally here with our next article. Now, this is the country of Georgia, which is in Eastern European country. And it says, wait a minute. I don't know if we can read the article. because we getting blocked out here. Says up to 2,000 anti-LGBTQ protesters broke up a pride festival in the Georgian capital, Vidseli, on Saturday, scuffling with police and destroying props, including rainbow flags and placards. Organizers accused the authorities of actively colluding with the demonstrators to disrupt the event, but a government minister said it was difficult to police as it was held in an open area near a lake. The protesters managed to find ways to enter the area of the event, but we were able to evacuate the quote-unquote pride participants and organizers. The Deputy Interior Minister, Alexander, I'm going to butcher his name, Derek Vets, all right, whatever. Nobody was harmed during the incident, and the police are now taking measures to stabilize the situation. Hey, no disrespect to Alexander, but bruh, it's late for me and I just can't read your name, just be honest. The director of this Vidseli Pride confirmed to Reuters that all the event's participants had been bussed to safety, but criticized the authorities' policing of the Pride event, which she said had been held in private for a second consecutive year to reduce the risk of such violent protests. Let's stop right here. Now, just be completely honest. If you understand that the majority of your country is against something, and that you're taking your life in your own hands and your country's not that safe, you just got to deal with what comes with that situation. And Unique One Express says these drag queen storytime events are showing up everywhere now, no matter the place. Exactly. And that's why I wanted to wait a minute. That's why I wanted to do that article to show that it is in different places. There was one last year in Montgomery County, as we were speaking about Montgomery County. So it says here, Miriam, man, I can't read any of these people's names. Kravachila said far-right groups had publicly incited violence against LGBTQ activists in the days leading up to the Pride events, and that the police and interior minister had declined to investigate. I can believe that. I definitely think that this disruption was a pre-planned, coordinated action between the government and radical groups. We think this operation was planned in order to sabotage the EU candidacy of Georgia. Now that's an interesting take. Anyway, the police and government could not immediately be reached to comment on her accusations. Okay, so I'm not, I have no idea what's going on in the country of Georgia. But one thing I know for a fact is when people start accusing you of stuff and suddenly your phone doesn't work, there may be some veracity to her statement. Anyway, Georgia's president, Salome, man, come on, are we serious? Zurabishvili, a frequent critic of the government, echoed the criticism of the police, saying they had failed in their duty to uphold people's right to assemble safely. Georgia aspires to join the EU, but its ruling Georgian Dream Party has faced increased criticism from rights groups and the EU over its perceived drift towards authoritarianism. Interesting. After violent street protests in March, it withdrew a Russian-style bill that would have required non-governmental organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as agents of foreign influence. Let's stop right there. So, see, this is interesting because this is a situation that we normally see in like African countries where we have people that come in with all this money. You have these NGOs and they're trying to change the government policy and change the culture of the area. And then people start calling them out and like, hey man, we need to stop these NGOs and stuff like that. And then sometimes the government will curtail the ability of the NGOs to do stuff. But the point being is the same methodologies that we see with a lot of African countries. This is the first time I really paid attention and seen a European country really dealing with the same issue of outside influence. These NGOs that come in with all this money and they get to changing your whole culture and trying to teach your children and influence your government. And before you know it, they passing all types of laws that no one seemingly agrees with, but the laws have still been passed. And so it's interesting to be able to do a compare and contrast with different parts of the world, that facing the same issues. So, says Georgia has passed laws against discrimination and hate crimes, but LGBTQ rights groups say there's a lack of adequate protection by law enforcement officials, and quote unquote homophobia remains widespread in the socially conservative South Caucasus nation. All right, hold up. So if this is a conservative nation, as they state here, near the Caucasus Mountains, weirdly enough, and which means the majority of people are not inclined to like open advocacy of LGBTQ, then who's pushing the agenda? If it's not coming from inside, then it has to be coming from outside. It says 2 years ago, several journalists were beaten during attacks on LGBTQ activists in Vasily. One of the journalists, a cameraman named Alexander Leshkavara, was later found deceased in his home. Wow, they're not playing. So, brothers and sisters, that just goes to show that even in Europe, people just saying enough's enough. So I found that interesting because it gave us, like I said, the ability to compare and contrast what's going on between African nations like Uganda, which we've already covered, and then places like Georgia, which I don't think most Black people even really think about. Now we're going to go to a few weeks ago. We're going to go to Ghana, and this is from almost 3 weeks ago. And this is the Ghana Business News. It says Ghana's parliament on Wednesday unanimously adopted the Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2020. They have obviously been influenced by the West just by the length of the title of this bill, because that is a mouthful. It says the object of the bill is to provide for proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values, prescribe LGBT and related activities. The bill now moves to consideration stage, after which it will go through the third reading before it is passed into law. During the second laying of the bill, when Speaker Albin Sumana Kingsford Bagbin put the question as to which of the 275 members of Parliament was against the adoption of the bill, the House unanimously voted for its adoption. Okay, interesting. So I guess he put people on blast and they were like, hey, nah. The bipartisan private members bill was introduced by 8 members of Parliament, led by Mr. Samuel Nartey George, National Democratic Congress MP for Ningo Pram. The rest are Emmanuel Kwazi Bedra, NDC MP for Ho West, Madam Della Ajwa Sowa, NDC MP for Kapondo, and Reverend John Fordjor, New Patriotic Party. I'm reading things that aren't here. anyway, as they go through the vast number of people who are for it, says contributing to the debate on the motion, Mr. George, the lead sponsor of the bill, said the danger of homosexuality is grave. Persons who are homosexuals or transgenders, from statistics from the CDS, have at least 6 times higher rates of obesity, substance abuse, suicidal thoughts than heterosexual people. That is that's an astounding statistic there, and I guess that's just for Ghana. Says this was a consequence. This has a consequence on our health bill as a country and public health, and we cannot turn a blind eye to this. Now, this is interesting. It's an interesting take. I don't think you ever thought of it this way, but he's saying that the health ramifications and the cost of the health ramifications are dire, or would be dire, for the nation of Ghana, and thus that is a reason to oppose this uptick in this behavior. So that's a interesting perspective. He said in pursuant to Article 12.1 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, all organs of state, including the executive, judiciary, and legislative, had a constitutional duty to respect and uphold the fundamental human rights enshrined under the 1992 Constitution. That's interesting. I didn't know the Constitution was that young. Said when the bill becomes a law, its implementation would have some financial implications, and therefore he appealed to the president to adopt the bill and sponsor its passing. Says Mr. Andrew Amako, second deputy speaker and MPP for Fomena, urged the House to unite to ensure the passage of this bill. So, and I guess I should have found me an article to follow up on that, but we get the point. Now we see Ghana, we see Kenya, we see Uganda, basically saying no to the rainbow imposition. So we're going to see coming up who's serious and who's not, because I can't remember the quote. I wish I had brought it up, but the United States has made it very clear that they are going to punish anyone, any country, I should say, that dares to take a stand on this issue. Any country that wants to express their sovereignty on this issue, any country that wants to maintain their cultural and national and religious ethics. The United States has made it clear that they're going to punish them economically. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of these countries isn't openly attacked to make an example of that country, where we could see, some type of, in fact, that was Uganda. Uganda had a situation where a quote unquote terrorist attack happened and some children were kidnapped. Does anybody else remember that? Or am I? That was a couple of weeks ago. Anybody else remember that? If anyone remembers that, put that in the chat. I just thought about that. But yeah. So yeah, we've already seen it. Soon as Uganda said, nah, we're not with it, then like a week or two later, there was some type of quote unquote terrorist attack, like some type of Boko Haram type group popped up out of nowhere and started running amok in their country. So now we got a couple more articles and then we will be done. Says World Health Organization faces backlash over guidance for schools, saying children aged 4 and under should ask questions about sexuality and explore gender identities. Let's stop right there. So this goes to show, now this is the World Health Organization. This goes to show that this is not a local issue. It's not a national issue. It is indeed a global issue. Now, it says officials describe the guide as a framework for policymakers, educational, and health. My bad. Let me actually start at the beginning of the article. It says the World Health Organization guidelines suggest that children as young as 4 and under should be given sex education and explore gender identities. In a document published to provide guidance for policymakers in Europe, the organization claims that sexual education starts from birth. Let's read that again. In a document published to provide guidance for policymakers in Europe, the organization claims that sexuality education starts from birth. I need somebody, anyone, to explain to me why a baby that can't feed itself, can't move by itself, can barely roll over, can barely hold its head up, using the bathroom on itself, needs to know anything about sexuality. Hey, I mean, if anyone wants to explain that to me, now is the time. I'm open, because I personally think this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. And of course, y'all know how I do. I look up the articles, I scan the articles. I don't actually read the articles. So you can get my natural reaction. But this is insane. There's no way that someone who's not a pedophile is going to say something like this. It's just plain and simple. Now, it says officials describe the guide as a framework for policymakers, education, and health authorities and specialists. The guidance suggests that children between 4 and 6 years old should be encouraged to talk about sexual matters. And I believe that this is they have and you can look at this up on the Daily Mail yourself, because they have actually part of the framework listed here. So it is, let me go back and see what date this is from. This is from May 14th. And this is the dailymail.com. So you can look it up and you can see the chart and we can see the guidelines. So what I'm going to do, because it's not what I planned to do. We're going to look at this. All right. We're going to read the guidelines and just see what in the world is going on. I'm kind of glad I actually stumbled upon it. It says from 0 to 4, says information, different kinds of relationships, different family relationships. It says skills, talk about your own relationships and family. Hold up. How's a 1-year-old or a 6-month-old going to even comprehend what's going on? And why would they even? Oh my goodness, man. I don't think I want to read this. Then it says sexuality, health, and well-being. And then there's a section that says sexuality and rights. It says the right to be safe and protected, the responsibility of adults for the safety of children, the right to ask questions about sexuality, the right to explore gender identities. I knew it was coming somewhere here. Again, this is ages 0 to 4. This is the recommendation coming from the World Health Organization. It says again, the right to explore gender identities. So they're saying that a child who hasn't mastered using the bathroom, right, should be exploring their gender identity. Brothers and sisters, this is the documentation. This is what's going on. This is what's being pushed on children, and this is what's going on globally. Yeah. All right, let's dig further into this. This is making my head hurt. Y'all know how I get when I see some of this stuff. Says on that part with skills, it says say yes and no, develop communication skills, and express needs and wishes, and to differentiate between good and bad secrets. See, now that part doesn't actually sound so bad, which is what's scary. Because when you make these guidelines like this is an example of what the Quran says of, mixing truth with falsehood. That was always one of my favorite parts. There's a lot of stuff in the Quran I don't like, you know what I'm saying, as a former Muslim. But mixing truth with falsehood, man, it's very dangerous. And we can see by looking at this document, right? Now it says for sexual health and well-being, it tells the children to trust their instincts and apply the 3-step model. Say no, go away, and talk to somebody you trust, and achieve feelings of well-being. It's so interesting. It's weird because, again, this is from 0 to 4. Now hold up. Man, think about this. We're at a point for half of that time where children aren't even able to really express themselves in a way that this advice is given would be beneficial. Because it's going to be very hard for them to even have the vocabulary to express what's going on, and to be, you can't even comprehend, at an age where there's a lot of things you can't even comprehend. A lot of concepts you can't comprehend. There's a lot of experiences you haven't had, and there's just messing with the innocence of children and passing it off as education. And I mean, people globally have to decide that enough's enough of this stuff. Now, further down, I'm trying to see what age. Just messed that up. I'm trying to see what age this part is for here. I guess this same section is for the same part, and it says sexuality. Wait a minute, hold up. Is this part of the 0 to 4 section? Okay, the way this is presented, I have to assume this is part of the same section for children 4 and under. And it says gain an awareness of gender identity, talk about unpleasurable feelings in one's own body, and express own needs, wishes, and boundaries, for example, in the context of quote unquote playing doctor. And then it says enjoy. All right, see, here's where the sexualization of children comes in. This part, now mind you, we're talking about 4-year-olds and under, and they're talking about sexuality. It says discovery of one's own body and genitalia. But before that, at the top, What does it say? It says enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. Early childhood what? Self-pleasuring. Trying to dox the YouTube censors here. Again, I'm just reading the documentation. I have to get the full document. I have to find the full document. I have to find it in some type of PDF form and get that sent out to everyone so everybody can go over it and see what's going on. This is it's crazy. Y'all all right out there? I don't see nobody in the chat moving. I'm not talking to myself, am I? Y'all let me know if y'all still out there. This is one of those times where, again, I didn't read the full article, but I'm kind of glad I did because you get my natural reaction to this, and I am shocked. Now, it says the WHO document has led to a backlash in the UK, including from MPs and campaigners. It even suggests that children aged 4 and under should be taught about self-pleasuring and enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. These fall under what the WHO refers to as the minimum standards that need to be covered by sex education. The minimum standards. The document was also cited in a report consulted by Welsh ministers, which introduced a mandatory sex education syllabus last year. However, the UK government has rejected the guidance being introduced to children in Britain. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of shocked that Britain's kind of holding the line on this. It says a government spokesman said the UK government does not recognize this WHO guidance and we don't agree with its recommendation. We have not distributed or promoted it to our schools. It says we offer our own guides to help schools teach children and young people about relationships and health. In Wales, Conservative MS and Shadow Minister for Education Laura Ann Jones called for the WHO to rescind the advice immediately. She added that the Welsh government should distance themselves from the frankly disturbing guidelines. Okay. Britain, stand up. Ah, man, I never thought I'd be rooting for Britain in anything. Can't lie. Says Child Safety Campaign Safe Schools Alliance also condemned the document. Spokeswoman Tanya Carter said an urgent inquiry is needed into how this ideology has come to influence so much public thinking. The WHO said that it stood by its guidelines on child sexuality despite the backlash. A spokesperson for the organization said, our guidelines reflect established psychological facts about children's understanding of their bodies and psychosocial development based on decades of research. So they, well, of course, they're standing by what they said. So I mean, salute to Britain for standing up for children. Because I just would have thought, being completely honest, I'm not gonna lie to you, I just figured that Britain and some of these other Western European countries that are more liberal would have seen that stuff and just pass it on, but they're like, no, sir. So that goes to show, again, what I said. When it comes to children, that seems to be the one motivating factor that make people stand up and resist. So the last article, oh man. Okay, so we're gonna do this last article, and then I'm gonna talk about something that I saw, and I'm gonna do a short radical report on later, and it just reminded me of this. So Chelsea Clinton, Clinton's daughter, defends sexually graphic children's books. And this is from way back in May, early May 3rd. It says Chelsea Clinton, daughter of former U.S. President Bill Clinton, took to Twitter last Thursday to condemn book banning Over 50% of the attempted book bans last year involved books with y'all know what it is, rainbow characters and themes. Books are a very vital way that children, adolescents, and adults learn about themselves and our world. Bans such as these are nothing but harmful. My question is, where can you go when you don't learn about LGBT in this day and time? You can't turn on anything, anywhere, at any time. And if you live in a major city, you're going to see it whether you like it or not. So, alarmingly, Clinton shared a NBC News article that featured the book Gender Queer. Again, that book, which is an explicitly sexual book that contains visual depictions of oral stimulation, adult interaction with a minor, and self-pleasuring. Having looked into the book, but certainly not read the book, this is accurate. All of those things are in there. Again, we gonna go back through it. So I use these euphemisms. Visual depictions of oral interaction, self-pleasuring, and adult contact with a minor. Take all the time you need to process the information. That all of that is in one book. And I posted on Instagram a couple of days ago about there's another book that just came out, and I wish I could remember the name of the book. And people in Australia were furious about that book, and I guess I had to do a radical report on that. So that is the Gender Queer book. Now it says Chad Felix Green, a man who suffered from gender dysphoria but lives his life as a gay man, explained to Clinton what the book was about. The photo on the article you're quoting features a book with explicit illustrations of intimate acts, a book about incest, a story with 2 10-year-old boys. Wait, what in the world? Y'all gotta forgive me, brothers. The stuff he describing, I didn't even see. One with a man interacting after isolating a 12-year-old girl, and one about a teen girl who just seduces a man who kidnaps. What in? All of that is in that book? Oh my. Oh, anyway. Now, this is what's crazy. A homosexual male is telling the former president's daughter how bad this book is. Now, I've had the book in my hand and looked at one section of it that I found disturbing. But what's weird is that the stuff that he's talking about is more disturbing than the stuff that I actually saw, which is crazy. Abigail Shrier, who wrote a controversial bestseller on the social contagion of gender ideology, quote, retweeted to the president's daughter, "Irreversible Damage is the book with the most requests that it be banned in Canada in the last 15 years and in libraries in the US. Refuse to carry it, even when offered as a donation. Yet it's rarely included on banned books lists in the US media. Why is that, Miss Clinton?" Interesting. So she's saying, well, if you want to talk about banned books, how about this book here that deals with the fact that getting children to mutilate themselves, and then they're left when they decide that they want to be what they were before the surgery. They're just short, you know? It just, I mean, once you have the surgery, what's done is done. It says because of the perverted nature of the books, Twitter users have been calling Chelsea her father's daughter. Y'all funny, man. Bill Clinton settled a sexual harassment suit with Paula Jones in 1998. was accused of sexual violation by Juanita Broaddrick and committed inappropriate acts in the White House with Monica Lewinsky. Though Clinton's defenders tried to paint inappropriate conduct as a vast right-wing conspiracy theory, Monica Lewinsky's story came to light after she saved her infamous blue dress stained by the president. There was a portrait of President Clinton in a blue dress found amongst Jeffrey Epstein's possessions. It says Clinton didn't model for the painting, nor did the original artist make it for Epstein. It's interesting. I didn't know that. Somehow it found its way to Epstein's house. Epstein was a rich American sex offender who died in prison before the depths of his crimes and his associates could come to light. Epstein actually was a rich Jewish Israeli sex offender who was possibly working for the Mossad, who died before his associations came to light. And this is that infamous painting of William Jefferson Clinton. So we see that we see how high this goes as far as the people who are advocating for these things, and we see that the target is children. And again, that section that I read that was in the Daily Mail, that was for 4 years old and under. Like, that wasn't even teenagers, it wasn't middle school. Not that I think you advocated for middle school or elementary or anything like that, but I'm saying it says 0, the years 0 to 4. It's just crazy. And Africa Ross says virtual insanity. And Unique One Express says very explicit and candid content provided for children to see, disgusting as it can be. Indeed. And if you, I know some type of way, actually, I just thought about Brother Jenny that actually has clips of people who are trying to defend. I'm not sure from which protest it was, but he has clips of people trying to defend their position on having the availability of books like Gender Queer in the schools and in the libraries, and some other controversial books, KBC's. There's another one I can't remember. But what's interesting is when he shows, remind you now, these people out there, they're saying, hey, yeah, children have to have access to this, blah, 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 blah. When he shows them what's actually in the book, then you start seeing them moonwalking away from that position that they held. So, speaking of Brother Gene, I forgot, I had one more clip with him. Someone put together and they juxtaposed it with a politician, I believe, in Uganda. So before we go, we're gonna watch this clip, which I don't think is but maybe 2 minutes long or so. So this is what it looks like when black men decide to actually stand up and face off against the imposition. So first of all, let me pause my music and check out this clip real quick.
Lives Matter. It's unfair to call it that, because as an African, I am on the front line fighting the LGBTQ imposition and pushing this homosexuality on our people in Africa and here. I will stand to the end as a black man and white man.
How can homosexuality shelter the black man and the black woman?
It's real. Black men and black women Why? Because we're fragmented. That's not out of order. It needs to be dealt with. It needs to be discussed.
In our country, we will have our morals. We will protect our children. And we are making this law. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making this law for our children. We are making this law for the children of our children. This country will stand firm. And once it passed, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, we are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no space in Uganda.
We always stand.
Look for me in a world when I reform. Look for me all around you. For if God's grace, I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life.
All right, brothers and sisters. So hopefully you all enjoyed that. Just wanted to show you that there are people who are indeed resisting and standing strong against this imposition. So again, as I said, we will have Brother Genie scheduled to be here 2 weeks from yesterday. So this will not be a Monday, it'll be a Sunday. And also look forward to a couple of more Radical Reports coming up this week. If you have not watched the Radical Report that I released yesterday, please take time out to go check that out. We talked about Jason Roger Pope and his case. It's been 4 years. Many people didn't know about the underage girls that were involved in that case. And I spoke about the fact that he's managed to dodge the law. He is in court. I mean, he is in jail. He's not in prison. But I'm beginning to suspect, and maybe I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But I am beginning to suspect that his case is bigger than I initially thought. Again, this is the guy that had claimed to have been with 693 black women. He said black women, but found out and girls. A local DJ, and if you look at the thumbnail on that video, again, he has a picture with Hillary Clinton, among others. He also had a picture with Serena Williams, but I could not find that picture. So, I mean, that is a case that I will definitely try to keep abreast of what's going on, and it seems like it's going to drag on longer and longer. Trying to think, is there anything else? Also, I'm not going to cover the situation with the sister, what's her name, Carly Russell, I think. It's come out. Yeah, I don't know if you all saw it, but it's come out that she did indeed make up that story for whatever reason. I haven't heard anything about her motivations, but you know, she's joined Juicy Smollett in making up things that didn't really happen. I don't know if they're going to charge her or anything. I don't know the state of her mental health. I just will say this. Sex trafficking is real. We have a problem with missing persons, especially sisters in our community. And for someone to create a hoax and have people out looking for them and worried and look, we can't be playing these games with our people like this, because let's be realistic, many authorities already don't take these type of things seriously, and for her to do something like that is damaging, and you know, it's hard enough to deal with these type of situations with missing sisters, missing young people, even now missing brothers. And again, like I said, the sex trafficking thing is Very real, and it's something that men of all, really, to be honest, men of all races and across the country are going to have to deal with head on. Sister Farnessa says Carly had a huge birthday party at her home today. Goodness, the po rolled by. Yeah, man. I guess the information to come out in a while. So I just don't understand why you would do something like that, knowing what's going on. And she's what? How old is she? 25. So she's young, but she's not that young. We really got to understand the type of situation we're in as Black people, and just try not to do anything stupid. There was a time, and I don't want to go on a long tirade, but there was a time where your parents, your grandparents really sent you out into the world and say, hey, don't embarrass yourself. Don't put shame on our name. Our last name has meaning and value. And just don't go out here making us look bad. Well, Carly did all of that. She got her family out there vouching for her and co-signing it. And it's all just a bunch of malarkey. And Sister Farnessa says she just obtained a lawyer after her parents were paid for that Today Show interview. Oh, really? I didn't know she was on a Today Show. And she turned 26, so she's older than 25. And you know what? I mean, if y'all want me to do a radical report on it, I will. But so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next week. I might be completely honest, the way that the sisters have been acting and what's been going on with the sisters, I may do one just on our situation with our sisters, because I'm gonna be completely honest, I've given up on a lot of brothers a long time ago, right? But I had hope through the woman, because through the woman you can reproduce life and you can rebuild your nation. It ain't looking too good right now for that. As long as Sukiana and now we got Red something or whatever, I can't whatever her name is, I don't know, Pretty Red, something like that, whatever. Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, all them, Megan Thee Stallion. If they're what our young reproductive age sisters are going to aspire to be, we're in trouble as a race, and especially Black people in America. If this becomes the norm and the standard, and fortunately right now it's not, contrary to popular belief, we're gonna be in bad shape. It's gonna be hard to turn the ship in the right direction. In fact, you're gonna have to pull it up off the rocks if that's the case. Unique One Express says the Carly story is wild, and I hear people saying that she recently apologized. Okay, well, if she did, I hadn't seen that. Says she seems to be a spoiled and entitled brat. So there's something going on. For you to, it probably never even occurred to her that people would actually care and be concerned, and the thing would get national. She probably had no clue that it would get as big as it did. Sister Farnessa said she apologized through her attorney. Okay. I mean, for whatever that's worth. So yeah, I'm through with that. If anything major comes out of it, other than what happens, then I'll cover it. Like I said, I may do a show dedicated to the sisters next week. If I do, I'll just include that fiasco in it. But the plan is to come back here again either Sunday or Monday for another live stream, another episode of The Center Live. Again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Tell your friends about the show. Make sure you check out yesterday's Radical Report. I did put some polls up just asking what type of videos people like. You get a chance to check those polls out. And I will be continuing to do content for you all for this month, because I really want to see if I can really build up the channel by just being more consistent, because that's what YouTube is about. People who are most consistent eventually build up a following, and eventually they get monetized. So we will see how that goes. Again, with that, I thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. I thank you all for supporting. I thank everyone who donates to the Cash App. Every dollar is appreciated. Again, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, Twitter dc_radical_ONE. The OTW2 page was a Black-owned platform, is DC Radical 1. The Cash App is $DC Radical 1. And the email is dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. With that, I say Abibi Fahodie and straight Black pride.